On the edge of Lake Red Rock, welcome home to a home of great dirt racing, where the Hall of Fame finds itself. It's 2 races for you over the course of today, because your iRacing Knoxville Nationals are in full super session mode. We are not a million miles away from Des Moines in Iowa, and boy, can we not wait for some amazing, great sim racing to jump into play. It's Jake Sperry and Taylor Burris bringing you all of the action here today. And Taylor, the one thing you've got to love about national season is it's a great time for everyone to come out of the woodwork and say, this is what it means to go great dirt racing.
You're talking about the biggest dirt race of the year when it comes to the sprint cars that we're about to see do battle. 56 of the best drivers throughout this week who have been competing, and we're going to whittle it down from that to 22 to make it to the feature event later on today, all the way down to one winner of the iRacing Knoxville Nationals, race 1 for today's action, as we'll have the second race later on this evening. But it's going to be exciting racing all throughout the day today.
It absolutely will, and we'll take a look at our iRacing special events calendar here in 2025, and we're on the second half of the page now as we walk into August. 4 events to come here over the course of this month, which does now include the 5th annual Multiple Sclerosis Charity Race, which is a wonderful charity event to get yourself involved in. But you've still got events like the Bristol 500, the Bathurst 1000, and all the way down in December, the Winter Derby and the Chili Bowl still to come.
Absolutely. One of the 2 dirt races that we'll have for the oval side, and then, of course, some other great events. Of course, the Martinsville MX 500, that'll be happening as well. Exciting events.
They certainly will do. So, if you are here with us for the first time, understanding what we mean by a super session event, we've had preliminary races from July 28th all the way to August 1st with 2 time slots a day for everyone to try and jump in with the most points earned. You now find yourself in top split and racing. But there are 2 time slots to race, and even if you haven't done a single one of these preliminary races, Taylor, you still have a chance to race tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Just sign yourself up and you'll get yourself a chance to run. Doesn't matter if you've got a lot of experience or not, just make sure you got 4.0 Dirt Oval iRacing in Class D.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting for those who maybe didn't get the chance to run this morning. They can run later on tonight and see what it's like to drive these behemoths of 410 sprint cars.
Yeah, and it's going to be wonderful to see who will be a virtual Steve Kinzer, who will be a virtual Donny Schatz, who will be like Kyle Larson, picking up 3 of the last 4 when it comes to the Nationals. That is all to come along, as we've got a huge field of 56 that look to get themselves whittled down through the way that this structure will work. We've got heats, and then, of course, we've got the mains to try and walk on through. And what is a little bit different to what you may have read on the iRacing forum, it's a case of laps will all count here today. Of course, caution laps will not be counting in terms of how they go about and try and get themselves sorted. So, Taylor, it means that we could be either in for a really short day or a really long one.
Absolutely. So hopefully these drivers get themselves ready to go, put themselves together. But let's take a look at this famous dirt track here, the Knoxville Raceway, and of course located in Knoxville, Iowa, not Tennessee. This half-mile dirt track opened in 1878, first utilizing for horse racing before being switched over to utilizing the sprint cars that you see today. The surface is not like a typical surface that you would see in southern dirt track utilizing the red clay. It's a zook soil, a sediment that you would find in reservoir beds. And with how that works, it actually makes the track a little bit more tacky. So these cars are going to bite a little bit more during these races compared to what we would see in some of the southern racetracks that we see utilized on the iRacing service. Of course, 7 degrees of banking. And of course, last year, the 2 winners we had, Kenny Hoffman, who won the morning super session, and then Gunnar Harris had an astounding drive to take home the second super session race from last year's at the evening time.
Yeah, and there is the machinery of choice, your Dirt 410 sprint car, over 900 brake horsepower from a 6.7 litre pushrod V8 engine. No gears to deal with. It's just direct drive. You plug in, you play, you charge out there, and it is the fastest form of the winged sprint car. It's got a dry weight of about 1,375 to 1,500 pounds. And if you can hit over 160 mile an hour in those cars, putting all that power down through those Hoosier tires, you're going to be saying, wow, hold on for an amazing ride as you go around Knoxville Raceway and this dirt oval. Taylor, this is a wonderful car for racing.
It is so amazing. In fact, some people have even made claims that due to the fact of the power-to-weight ratio, this car here could just be as fast as even some of the top Formula One cars by the power-to-weight ratio. That's how impressive and the technology is behind these, what seem to be simple but powerful 410 sprint cars.
It is a type of car that does strike fear into many different drivers' eyes as they look to get themselves sorted. Qualifying is currently underway. They've got 2 laps available to them in order to set, and then, of course, 3 minutes to put themselves together on the board. So we will just make sure that we get through to that, and then we will start hitting this heat process. But, Taylor, what will be critical for all of these drivers as they look to set themselves out as we take a little look at some of our drivers here today and the amount of work that's done. You even see, look, the face of concentration that we've got from certain individuals out there who are saying, right, let's lean in and try and see how quickly we can get these times sorted. This is going to be fast and frenetic.
Yeah, you even saw the 74 of Jonathan Daly, who you see on board right now. He was actually, you saw the screen shaking. That just shows how intense and focused you have to be in order to get around these 410 sprint cars at this track, because it's not like the other 2 sprint cars that we have on iRacing. These, you have to be careful of how you manage as we take a look at the highlights from last year's Knoxville Nationals.
Yeah, 2024, this was the second races in the Super Session, and what was very telling about the way that they went about it is you start in the evening and the sun sets and it goes to night, but the heats were very well behaved as they went through, with a lot of drivers trying to fight for position. It was when we came over to the main racing that came about. That's when the critical nature of this circuit came to fruition, and drivers who got a bit desperate started to find how tough this circuit was.
Yeah, chaos ensued big time here as we see this biggest incident of the night. Multi-cars involved, and it's time to head to the feature race where the talk of the town was Aiden Berlin and then Gunnar Harris, the 2 front runners who duel for the chance of sprint car glory. As you see here, drivers having to deal with the changing conditions of the dirt track. But as you see, watching the pass for the lead here, it was side-by-side action, slide job after slide job, and of course a little more chaos that ensued with that outside wall.
Yeah, and everybody had to be switched on to it. We saw a lot of drivers there. It took a late restart to pretty much settle and decide how this race was going to be run. And for Gunnar Harris, it was everything that the 10 car would have wanted, picking up the iRacing Knoxville Nationals in Super Session 2. We are just moments away from the first of the heats going through as we sit outside the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. If you want more information on how to jump on in and start your iRacing career with us, you can log on to iRacing.com today and get yourself in with some amazing sim racing action. New memberships have a bit of a discount on them, so everything for your first 3 months is going to be really nice to jump in with. But we do have the first heat set and ready. It will be 10 laps for this first heat that goes through. And in terms of the way that they've gone and qualified themselves about, it's about who can say they are on the aggressive path to go through. All heats will be 10 laps with the top 3 drivers advancing from the heats. And then we've got E main, D main, C main, B main, and then your feature race where the top 4 drivers from each main will advance to the back of the field of the next main until we reach the feature, Taylor.
A little bit of alphabet soup when we get into that here later on today. It's always fun to see this happening, but the heat races here tonight, this is the great time for you to learn and just try to take care of your positioning if you're towards the front.
Yeah, Tracy Pedder then will be in charge of Heat 1 with Brody Dusha alongside. The second row houses Kyle Peters and Wesley Parker there in 4th. Ryland Dixon and Terry Humphreys, the Aussies, on row number 3, with Jason Wallop from Drexel Esports then in 7th and Ryan Leitner in 8th place. It's then Wade Georgeson and Leon Hood, which will make up your top 10 as they look to set themselves up in heat number 1. It's all about the aggressiveness of where you want to be on this start. Remember, top 3 will go through, and so if you're scrapping it about, this is probably the nicest that this circuit is going to run all race long, because as this track progresses, it's only going to get slicker and slicker.
It certainly is there, Jake, and this is going to be the most prime opportunity to utilize those tires, utilize how the car is going to handle. This is going to be the best the car will feel probably all day is in this first heat race.
Yep, so they've got the prime conditions out there to book their place into the feature, and we'll see how that plays as we watch the iRacing pace truck dive off the berm, and it's a quick launch by Tracy Pedder. We are underway, and we are racing here from Knoxville. Everybody running down to the low side there as the 13 of Wesley Parker in 4th position. Immediately looks low to try and get the jump on Kyle Peters, trying to get the block on. 3 wide already. Peters tagging the wall, not once but twice.
Contact already between the two drivers who are battling for third, and a switchback position for the 23 machine, who's able to work his way through. But Peters now holds that position for the time being as he tries to stay on the bottom. One car loops it around off of turn number 4, but we watch on as Kyle Peters holds on to that coveted 3rd spot.
Leon Hood is upside down out there, and that's going to be no good at all. Caution flag will come out. That was with Terry Humphreys, and immediately major dramas in the first heat. Not going to get this one as clean as we did in last year for heat running, but a very aggressive start through the first 3 laps there, Taylor, and the big key was around Ryland Dixon and Wesley Parker. Parker was pretty much from pillar to post off that start.
He certainly was, and then we just saw him get a little bit loose off turn number 4 there, which then caused that 3-wide chaos, which then allowed Peters to sneak his way through and pick up that 3rd position. So it just shows, even with this track being so tacky as it is, it's will have some issues here as we take a look at the replay of what happened. But look at this 3-wide action. Peters works his way through, and then the 13, Wesley Parker, unfortunately makes the contact, has a tough time, goes over that berm on the bottom, and then makes more contact with a couple of other cars out on the track. He's able to keep going, but still a tough break for him.
Yeah, that was Terry Humphreys who ran into the back of Wesley Parker. That sent the chain reaction for Leon Hood to have nowhere to go. And we talk about nowhere to go here, Taylor, in a different way to what we do on a road course or an asphalt course, because if you keep your foot out of the throttle here in these 410 wing sprints, you're not got the luxury of just, oh, I can just take the car where I want to. The car pretty much drives itself to the outside, so you've got to be a little bit more careful when there's an incident. You need more time to react to get out to the throttle.
Yeah, it's just so critical of being heads up and just how quickly your reaction time is going to be, because you go one way, you're going to hit that Armco barrier right there on the outside, and if you go too low, you're going to end up hitting that berm that we'll see a little bit throughout the race right here. There you see a little bit of well extended through turns 3 and 4. You get that berm, you're going around easily because it is so much elevation right there. These cars aren't going to be able to really handle that with the handling of it, how much input. But we are getting ready to go back racing as everyone's lined up right against the outside wall.
Remember, you've got to overtake on the outside on the restart in order to get that jump, and the jump is there as they work. Green flag in the air, and we are back to racing action here. We'll call this one lap 4 as we get ourselves restarted then. Kyle Peters in 3rd position with Tracy Pedder out there in front. Brody Dusha quite comfortable there on screen in 2nd position, and then the groups starting to form up here. Ryland Dixon is the one who's on the outside looking in, trying to chase. Secondary pack also looks like it's going to be an interesting spiel that we start to work, making the charge out of 4, and now looking along the front stretch. Ryan Leitner with work to do.
Yeah, Leitner is having a good fight as we watch this battle for P2 between Dusher, Peters, and Dickinson. These drivers who are trying to keep the pace here and also get a little extra. They want to also, with how this heat race goes, this will set their positioning for the feature race later on today. So you got to be critical and ready to attack if the opportunity presents itself here as we watch them dive down. And you see Peters closing in on Dusher right here as they come off corner. The great run through the middle of the corner.
Yeah, and trying to get that run off the exit. Everybody bottom feeding to start off then as we sit with just 3 laps to go, because they know that the bottom of the circuit is the quickest, but the more that dirt compacts, the tougher it's going to be to run the bottom, and that's why you see a little bit of the top line starting to form a cushion that certainly helps. Dusha really under duress here from Kyle Peters. They can't afford to be too laborious as they go for it. 1 lap to go now as they work it out, as they have to try and work away around the 2-lap down Terry Humphreys. That will certainly put things out at the front. It's a mile away for Tracy Pedder, who will take heat number 1, but for second and third, it's Dusha and Peters who hold. Ryland Dixon didn't have enough time.
Yeah, unfortunately, that lap car did cause the issues for Dixon right there to not be able to pick up the time he needed. He'll have to start at the tail end in the E-main later on today.
Yep, so difficult scenario there that's put into play. Tracy Pedder, though, gets the job done, and that will be the heat sorted with Brody Dusha second and Kyle Peters then in third place. It would then be Ryland Dixon and Wesley Parker fourth and fifth, who will have to go through a little bit of the mains to try and work a way through. And then you got Ryan Leitner, Jason Wallot, a quiet 7th place, with Wade Georgeson, Leon Hood and Terry Humphreys 2 laps down, making up the 10 in heat number 1. These heats will go quickly and they will go fast, because heat number 2 is already gearing itself up with Sean Smith in control of that in the number 2 machine, with Levi Gustafsson alongside. Jonathan Dolly, who we saw a little bit earlier on, is third with Brandon Dittmer fourth, as Ryan Mayer and Dalton Wicker are 5th and 6th. It then follows then over to row 4, where you've got Jacob Klein and Travi Foose, as Darren Sharp and Arkady Solovev make up your top 10.
Going to be another exciting race here. Second heat race of 6 for this morning session as they head out onto the track. And you should see them come up. You'll see that curbing of how much elevation change it is as they cross over heading onto the track. So you don't want to be hitting that too much here. But now it's starting to be a little bit different. So these drivers need to make adjustments throughout this race as we progress forward. And each of these drivers will actually have a setup, particularly for the heat race, for the basically LCQ or mains, and then of course the feature. As we take a look at the weather, 77 degrees outside, the track temp, very cool conditions. So the track is tacking up a little bit. A lot of grip is still utilized for the time being.
Yep, so there is going to be opportunities. We expect that the track temperatures will drop as far as this race will go. So it's not going to be a case of it's going to stay in the nice realm of happy, I would say, conditions for the entirety of this. So they will have to mastermind the different conditions that bring themselves on and into play. For the likes then of Sean Smith and Levi Gustafsson, it's about trying to control from the front, but really it's about giving yourself time and rhythm to go and make these moves. 10 laps is just a blink of an eye around here when you're running lap times of 14 and a half in qualifying. So you've got to be really patient. In comes the pace truck, and now let's get driving. Good work there from Sean Smith. Gets about a 3-car length jump off of the start, and immediately into the berm on the inside will go Jonathan Dolly then, and that is going to really cost on the launch, because that will now bring Ryan Mayer into play, trying to look underneath.
Yeah, Mayer was able to skip by the driver of Dolly right there to get that 3rd spot away. And already it's going to be a fight for 4th position between the drivers of Dolly, Mayer, and Wicker as they try to hunt down Brandon Dittmer, who holds that 3rd position.
Yeah, so certainly trying to find a lot of progress, and that launch in again is going to be there. The battle on for 4th position. Tough on the outside for Mayer, and Dalton Wicker now trying to work a way through on the inside. It's like watching him trying to make a wicker basket even at this moment. Again, trying to search a little bit there on the bottom. That's not working, but they are now starting to see a little bit of work towards the middle and the top. Sean Smith with a wonderful gap out there. Gustafsson second. We take a look here with Jonathan Dolly, and he realizes he's got a lot of work to do.
He does, and not a lot of time to do it as we're approaching the halfway point. Jonathan Dolly trying everything he can. Got to try a kick grip. He sends it in onto the inside and tries to pick up a little bit of time on Brandon Dittmer as they head down the turn 1.
Yeah, really trying to figure this out, and this is a tough scenario that is brought into play. It is wonderful at the front. They've got traffic, though, for your leader, so Sean Smith's got to get by Arkady Solovev and get by quickly, having to go down low, but for the moment, look behind then as they go. Dolly struggling. There is Gustafsson in second position, having what is a comfortable run of things then in that second place, but he's leading that next train of Dittmer and Dolly, and Dolly's trying something, if anything, to get that move done, trying to work that low line to get that launch into the middle of the corner, but just a couple car lengths shy at the moment.
And we see that happening with Dittmer. He's running a little bit about a lane ahead right there, running that middle groove up towards the top. And here comes a big send down to the bottom of the racetrack from Dolly. He then checks up, has to give position back, but is able to continue on as he now tries again in turn 3 and 4 with the white flag in the air.
Yeah, and waving around beautifully here at this stage. It's been comfortable for Sean Smith, who's out there in front. Gustafsson under pressure, though, into 3 and 4. It will be Sean Smith who will go there, but there's contact, and Dittmer, who went for second, is going to find himself out of the position as they cross the line. A huge dramatic moment here. Jonathan Dolly picks it up on the final corner to book his place.
What an amazing pass right there for Dolly. And I don't know what Dittmer was thinking. He had a nice gap from Dolly to take home and move on to the feature tonight, but unfortunately got a little too greedy right there and allowed him to capitalize and lose that chance.
So your results then as they follow: Sean Smith getting the job done ahead of Levi Gustafsson. Jonathan Dolly, who is up, down, all around, does manage to get to third. Top 4 stay as they are, with Brandon Dittmer in 4th place. Dalton Wicker will be 5th ahead of Ryan Mayer, with Jacob Klein in 7th position, with Travi Foose in 8th ahead of Darren Sharp, and 2 laps down, Arkady Solovev not having the best of starts to running. Now it becomes a case of looking at how everything all came together with that next stage they go through. We take a little look at this, Taylor, and it is as simple as, can you find a way to jump through? And the answer is a look down to the inside on the final stage, just trying to get the slide job sorted, having none of it.
He almost had it right there, but unfortunately clipped that curve a little too much, which tossed the cart sideways right there. Unfortunately, that's what cost him the chance to move on automatically to the feature.
9 now for these next 3 heats, as Tim Ryan, who is, to everybody knows, the strongest iRacing in the field with the number 1 next to his name. He's got 8,000. He'll start on the front with Brandon Geiswhite for company. Stephen Hassett and Fred Hoffman will go from 3rd and 4th, with Michael Sheridan in 5th ahead of Kyle Rochelle in 6th. The final 3 being Mike Simon, Robert Nelson and Angus Sweeney making up the field. And we do need to talk about this, the strength that Australia brings to this. People think this is just an American sport. It really isn't when it comes to dirt track racing. The Australians have a wonderful dirt culture.
When you think about when it comes to some of the biggest names in motorsports, so you come from, of course, not just here in the U.S., but also across over in Australia, Canada. In fact, the World of Outlaws has multiple divisions in those areas, plus also in Mexico, apparently. I did not know about that.
So there is still going to be a lot to try and uncover here with the 6 heats that are available, and everybody is trying their level best to move themselves through. Remember, it's top 3 that will advance themselves with a comfortable place, and the way that they'll be looking about trying to find these victories, this is try and get dirt on the grid. Tim Ryan then gets a lovely launch against Brandon Geiswhite, and we are underway for heat number 3. Hassett under pressure because using the top side beautifully. Fred Hoffman, oh, they tangle, and now straight through the middle trying to get the run on Hoffman now is Michael Sheridan, spins in the back, Hassett and Simon.
They were able to recover nicely, but no caution. They have a lot of work to do. That number 3 machine has to work his way back up through the field to make it work. But so far, that number 25 machine you see on screen of Fred Hoffman, he holds that coveted spot.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful case of how do you profiteer off of other drivers' malaise, and that is where Fred Hoffman's done a great job. Michael Sheridan into 4th position. Kyle Rochelle now in 5th, and a little bit of gappage then through your front 5 compared to the rest of the field, and that's what they'd all be trying to rely on in the early stage. This is also a great finding out stage. for the conditions. So everybody is a little bit cold going in. They've had the qualifying, but the longer you wait in these heats, the more itching you are to try and go and have a fight. Troubles for Geiswhite, who's slow on the inside.
Big time issue right there for Geiswhite. Do not know what happened. He has parked it down. Trouble for the 47 of Angus Sweeney. Loops it around off turn number 2 as well, as we are under caution once again for the first time in heat race number 3.
I wonder if Brandon Geiswhite put qualifying fuel in his 410 and just completely ran himself out of fuel.
That could be a possibility, looking at how he just came to a dead stop right there off of front straightaway heading into turn 1 and 2.
Well, a caution out, which will be relief for some, and for others, it will be exactly what the doctor didn't order. And when you look around at that, Tim Ryan, Fred Hoffman, and now Michael Sheridan make up your top 3. It is so easy for Troubles to find themselves involved. Angus Sweeney, of course, finding that turned around, wrong place, wrong time. It was a look down the inside from Stephen Hassett, who was trying to get it done. It was a meet in the middle sort of move, and Sweeney on the outside was never going to be the beneficiary.
That's a tough break right there for Angus Sweeney. Lost the front wing right there on the nose. That he's still staying out there, but that's going to be a tough thing to try and manhandle that kart without the aerodynamics on the nose.
Yeah, you really do need the aerodynamics on the front. It keeps the nose planted down to the floor. You've got so much torque that goes through the rear wheels that it effectively keeps that car down on the road and stops it from flying about as they go forward. So that is going to be a really tough scenario to deal with. And now as this second half of the race will look to bring itself back to play, this is where it's about holding yourself steady. Tim Ryan's done nothing wrong at the front. He dominated and broke away. Everything else behind him has been complete carnage here in heat number 3. So for the moment, it's Hoffman, Sheridan, Rochelle, and Robert Nelson, who started this one from 8th position, trying to run on through the order. So there is still a number of laps that still need to be ticked off to say, I can get into the right place at the right time. Brandon Geiswhite still down on the lane, but let's get back to running here with Tim Ryan in control. The second half of heat number 3 resumes.
Keeping an eye on the action for that 3rd position. Michael Sheridan holds on to that spot. He has about a 2-car length advantage as they come off of turn number 4, side by side, nose to tail, as we watch on the 29 of Kyle Rochelle trying to close the gap. They're now starting to run up towards the top side of the racetrack, right against that berm right there before they hit the Armco barrier. Currently, you ride on board with that 4th place driver, Kyle Rochelle, as he hunts down Sheridan.
Needs to find a way to get into that top 3, and at the moment it's a case for Kyle Rochelle of is there an lane, is there an angle that I can try and work. They're going to follow the same way, but maybe if there's a bit of looseness from Fred Hoffman, they might take this chance. Hoffman deciding to slide in low, having to bite 2, maybe 3 times through each corner to try and hold that steady, but at the moment here, lap 9, with just a lap to follow afterwards, there might be a bit for Michael Sheridan to get more safety here. He's going to try again, running that top line to get it to work here, and it's going to now be a case of will I dare throw that to the inside? Answer's going to be no, but Tim Ryan's had it easy. Will come to the line and take heat 3. Hoffman will follow with Michael Sheridan.
Beautiful, clean race up towards the front of the field for that final stage right there. But for Tim Ryan, I think everyone's going to be looking at that number 1 machine here as being the favorite for tonight's victory of the Knoxville National.
Yeah, it was a well-deserved result in the end from heat number 3, and a result of 6/10 in the end over Fred Hoffman, with the likes of Michael Sheridan in 3rd place and Kyle Rochelle then in 4th position overall. You've then got Stephen Hassett in 5th ahead of Robert Nelson, with Mike Simon in 7th, 8th. Belonging then to Angus Sweeney, and Brandon Geiswhite, the big loser in heat number 3, not getting what was needed. Heat 4 will now bring itself into fruition, where Colton Brewer is in control with Dalton Shearer alongside. It's then Jason Crawford and Dawson Manwaring in fourth position overall. You've then got Gavin Short in fifth and Michael Giberson making up the top six. Your final three being Crick Noren, there the Dutch driver, Daniel Sparks from Canada, and then Jordan Tomberlin with work to do from ninth. Taylor, this is all about finding yourself a platform to say, I've got pace.
This is a showcase that you have what it takes to be one of those 22 drivers to make it into the feature race here tonight. A lot of drivers have put in time, effort, testing hours, blood, sweat, and tears almost to try and get the chance to make it into the feature here in the virtual world.
And of course, everyone knows that the top three gives you the best possible chance of positioning yourself right place, right time. In these short races, qualifying the car is one of the most important things you have to do. And around a circuit which is so well known as a value, so revered in terms of a top prize, it's about who can stand up and say, this is what I'm made for. These are very much sprint cars that say it takes a whole lot of skill to hold on to them. Anyone can drive them, but to master them, they are something truly else. Colton Brewer then with control of the field as we get to racing action here. Heat 4 is underway.
Great start as they work their way off of turn number 2 now, and already you see the driver for Jason Crawford, a black flag given out for Gavin Shaw. He has to serve that penalty, unfortunately. But for Crawford and Manwaring, they will have to do battle for that third spot as we see those two starting to close back up as you see the battle for fifth.
Yeah, and it's getting busy behind Manwaring here. Michael Giberson and Crick Noren was thinking about where to be. It's now attacking for Giberson, thinking about then, can I get a way up? Then I've moved myself to fifth to the bottom of the circuit. He will think about, or trying to hold that top line rather and pinch, trying to get that fourth place. There comes the slide, but it's a little bit too wide going through. Oh, and catches the cushion a little bit too heavily. Manwaring gets away back.
Beautiful recovery there as we see trouble once again for that number machine right there of Giberson as he is trying to manhandle that sprint car around the circuit, struggling for grip, and he now loses another spot right there to Crick Noren, who is now holding that spot in fifth, as now Jason Crawford pulling more and more away from the competition as we watch this 28 machine trying to find his way around Crick for fifth.
0.7 of a second, the margin between Crawford and Manwaring, and that is going to give you a whole heap of understanding. Hard into the wall behind goes Michael Giberson, who again is trying to do what he can to keep this one pointed in the right direction. This is some very tough running. We take a look then on with Dawson Manwaring, and this is where you need to be looking in front, but ultimately it's not the end of the world, fourth place, because it puts you into that B main.
Yeah, he's got to focus right here, get a good run through, just try to hold that fourth spot. Don't overdo it for a good chance of a front row start in your main later on tonight as we work through alphabet soup. And as they come off of turn number 4 here with 2 laps to go, Manwaring doing everything he can just to maintain, maybe have a shot at Jason Crawford as we watch this battle still for fifth between Crick and Michael Giberson.
This is tough racing between him, and Crick Noren is going to find out that Michael Giberson just gets the clearance there. It was as tight as it could be here on the final lap. Noren comes straight back up the circuit saying, I'm going to take it away, and they both go dancing across the inside, contact as they go into the top. No worries for Colton Brewer, that was easy. Shearer second, Crawford in third, but some hefty hits between Giberson and Noren are going to take each other pretty much out of contention. Tomberlin's been caught up as well towards the back, which means they will be dealing with the minor placings as they go through heat number 4. Colton Brewer with a comfy race at the front by 1.3 over Dalton Shearer and Jason Crawford. Dawson Manwaring will be fourth with Daniel Sparks in fifth and Crick Noren in 6th position. It's then Jordan Tomberlin who will get 7th, just ahead of Michael Giberson, who went down to the pits in 8th, and 1 lap down would be Gavin Shaw with the penalty then just for missing the start out there. So that was the cause and the troubles that were there. Just 2 heats to go then here in your Knoxville Raceway Nationals as we get ourselves set and ready for sorting out who is in what main. And it is Mitch Drunowski who will be in control with Nathaniel Viscioni then for company on the front. Robert Crawley and Neville Ulf will be on row 2 for the Australians, with Aaron Huffaker and Jack Oldenburg in 5th and 6th positions. It will then be Dylan Simmons with the likes of Isaac Reber in 8th place, and Troy Hockenberry will try and make this work from the back.
I've been having some incredible fights and battles here in the heat races, but we do know one thing that's been really playing out. Those who start up at the front of the field pretty much just pull away and have great runs through. So if you are on that pole position, you are looking pretty comfortable here in these heat races as we are on heat 5 of 6. Just 2 more before we head through the alphabet soup.
Well, for those at the front, they'll be happy. Drunowski is going to be one of the most happy customers out there. Nathaniel Viscioni is going to have to try and work out whether it's going to be a case of smooth like butter or it's going to be a very viscous run where he's going to have to run through treacle. So with those behind, like Crawley, like Ulf, like Huffaker, trying to get into position, that's going to be tough. Cara on the very top there towards the back. Reber was having a few issues up there, but we got the launch and heat 5 immediately gets itself into position. Crawley stuck on the low side and not really getting much help at all out there at the moment. Viscioni is going to be there and they're going to be 3 wide coming out of 4.
3 wide, battle for second as they come back up into turn 1. Big time slide job right there for Viscioni and company as they try to come out of turn number 2, and already contact between the two. Crawley goes down to the bottom, tries to pull up, can't quite make it work, and Viscioni holds strong on the outside lane.
Already starting to see a little bit of the clay showing there in the middle and the bottom, some of the original track there coming up. So you're now starting to wonder, well, just how slick is it? And you're getting a more decreasing circle then to the outside. Aaron Huffaker then into 6th position now, dropping back because the likes of Dylan Simmons is now through and gaining that position. There is Simmons on the outside, and look at the way they are dueling for that transfer spot, that automatic look to the main. Crawley here is trying to do everything to get by compatriot Neville Ulf, who is up now into 3rd.
Yeah, Neville Ulf with a great run right there, but here comes that number 19, big-time slide coming from the 26th of Robert Crawley as he tries to send it down across the nose. Could not make it work, but Neville Ulf holds on here with only a few laps to go.
This is a tough position for Crawley to be in, knowing that the bottom's not working. He takes a tap. A look even lower from Dylan Simmons, who is moving with some wonderful effort. Started 7th and now up to 4th.
Beautiful drive right there. That is going to be a car to watch in that number 35 of Dylan Simmons, of how well that car is handling, especially with how the track conditions continuing to change as we watch these drivers do battle. And right now, your race leader of Mitch Drunowski is starting to pull away, but not as far as what we see in some of the other leaders. But here comes Nathaniel Viscioni. He is under immense pressure from Neville Ulf and company.
Viscioni will look behind. Neville Ulf is trying to figure out which way to go, and he does deviate at the latest possible moment, middle of the corner. That will leave no drive off the exit, and that leaves him vulnerable. Low side searching goes Dylan Simmons, now trying to get that launch, but through 4, there's nothing there for him, but you're going to have to keep working it and trying to throw what you can there on the final lap of this race. What a slide job to try and get that sorted. Up into the catch fence they go. Troubles there for the likes of Neville Ulf, and it will be Mitch Drunowski with a comfy run. Viscioni 2nd. Dylan Simmons with a tangle at the end has booked a place in 3rd.
What a big-time slide job he tried. Unfortunately, with the contact, that took 2 strong competitors out of contention for it. But how about Mitch Drunowski playing a cool, calm, and collective to move on along with Viscioni and Simmons?
Yeah, dramas towards the back as well between Huffaker and Robert, who will be classed as a lap down at the end. Drunowski, Viscioni and Simmons make their way through. Robert Crawley on the wrong side with Jack Oldenburg picking up 5th. Neville Olf maybe unfairly down into 6th position with Aaron Huffaker and Isaac Robert 7th and 8th. Troy Hockenberry 7 laps down will ultimately end up in position number 9, which leads us to the final heat where Matty Arnold will be in control with Kieran O'Brien on the outside. It's then Jeremy Soper and Ryder Poston on row number 2. Mason Skinner has the inside in 5th, with the outside belonging to Christopher Shepherd in 6th position, and he will be looking to move up to the top 3 to find his flock of sheep. Casey Sorech will be 7th with Doug Evenson in 8th, and it's Stephen McBride who makes up the 9 then, as they will set this final race of the heats into motion. And now this is where you start thinking about, okay, final heat, you know you didn't qualify the most amazingly, Taylor, but this is your chance to say, well, if I get it horribly wrong, I'm going to be at the back. For more information on how to start your iRacing career, if you've loved this, you can head to iRacing.com today to get yourself involved.
Absolutely, and you might have the chance to race here at Knoxville with these magnificent 410 sprint cars, along with all the other dirt tracks that we have here on the iRacing platform. But right now, I have to say, looking at the track right now, and as we've been touching on already, a lot of that dirt starting to go away on the bottom, but it looks nice and clean right there up against that Armco barrier on the outside. I'm pretty sure before it's all said and done, when we start in the early parts of the alphabet soup, a lot of the drivers are going to try to work their way up there.
You can see that sun has already set beyond the horizon, and this track is going to get colder and the lights are going to shine just that little bit brighter, and so it's going to be a little bit tougher to work out where your reference markers are. There's a difference between racing in the day and racing at night. Pace truck in, so Matty Arnold with control gets an uber launch. Kieran O'Brien was absolutely nowhere on that start, down to 4 immediately.
And loses a couple of spots. That allows Mason Skinner to take over the 3rd spot to transfer over into the feature tonight. As we watch the 12 of Mason, he wants to go for more. He's all over the back bumper of Jeremy Soper as they come across the line. 1 lap on the board.
Well, troubles for Christopher Shepherd means a non-starter, so just the 8 here, trying to work through for 3 places, and really it's Mason Skinner now who's trying to get up and find 2nd place, works the bottom line and tries to get up and through on Jeremy Soper. Soper's wise to it, will duck underneath themselves, and that's how the way they duel as they go into the next section then, through turns 1 and 2 again. Kieran O'Brien, oh, it's contact, and up on the wall, it's Ryder Poston.
Yep, made the contact, decided to ride up against the Armco barrier on the outside wall and could not hold on to it. He'll drop back to P6, and it continues on their way. It's more contact between Soper and Mason Skinner, who takes over the 2nd spot and is looking for more. He's making the charge towards race leader Matty Arnold.
That was a huge shunt into the back from Jeremy Soper. Replay on the bottom of your screen, up and coming. This is what happened to Ryder Poston, running that high line. It was a case of just getting a little bit too close. Scary, 2 up on the wall.
He was able to hold on to that here and make sure he can maintain and continue on, but already losing a ton of time here. And I got to say, when it comes to riding trouble for Skinner, hits the outside wall. He continues on his way, loses 3rd, but is under pressure from Kieran O'Brien.
And remember, that will be for the transfer, and Kieran O'Brien, after being in a prime position, going nowhere off the start, will certainly want to try and get that back. Mason Skinner making a couple of errors here, and Kieran O'Brien is trying to do whatever possible to go and close down these gaps in your iRacing Knoxville Nationals Heat 6, and Mason Skinner is really having to fight. This is a very tough 410 that's underneath Mason Skinner right now. It's almost like trying to ride a bucking bronco.
I was thinking more of a bull riding competition right here with how much you're trying to hold on to these here. But as Kieran O'Brien's trying everything that he can, down on the bottom as we see, Skinner hits the wall again, entering in the corner. Hold on to her there, Skinner, because here comes O'Brien with 1 lap to go.
Yeah, but O'Brien's lost the run by being in the middle of the circuit. That certainly hasn't played out the way it's needed to. Matty Arnold has been playing keep away at the front of the field, and now rounding out of turn 4. Thank you very much. I will take heat 6 with Jeremy Soper in second, and Mason Skinner, you would say, would be counting lucky stars from 5th up to 3rd to make the transfer.
Beautiful drive right there for them as they work their way, but now it's time for the alphabet soup for these drivers.
It certainly will do. We'll just get confirmation of result there. Matty Arnold picking up the win ahead of Jeremy Soper. Mason Skinner will finish off in 3rd ahead of Kieran O'Brien, who'll have to go to the mains, with Casey Sorech in 5th, Ryder Poston 6th, ahead of Stephen McBride and Doug Evenson making up your 8. As we now move ourselves then into the mains, 12 will look to go through this E-main, or will tackle this E-main. 4 will progress. Angus Sweeney will be in control of this with Michael Gibbison alongside. It's then Isaac Robert and Doug Evenson on row 2. Leon Hood and Darren Sharp will have row 3 respectively. As over the page is Brandon Geiswhite, who maybe is the one character who shouldn't be here. Gavin Shaw, Troy Hockenberry, Christopher Shepherd, Terry Humphreys and Arkady Solovev make up the 12 that now try to work their way through. It's the same distance here in this E-main. It's just the 10 laps that they have to try and figure this out. And so when you've only got 10 laps, you're thinking, well, this is just another heat. You just added a couple cars at the back.
It is, but it's a whole lot more. There's one more position up for grabs for these drivers. But the thing is, you have to be consistent and make sure you get through, because once you finish and you finish inside this top 4, you then start tailing Charlie in the D main and then have to fight your way through. So it's all a matter of how well this car will handle for you as you progress further and further up the running order.
The word is help. You need help, because every time you progress through and gain a few positions, you start at the back of the next one and you have to keep trying to work your way through. It's the toughest ladder to climb from the E-main all the way to your A-main running here, your main event for this, your first of 2 Super Session races. Ladies and gentlemen, you can still get your chance to race the second Super Session at 9 p.m. Eastern. You just jump on into iRacing and sign yourself in for the session. As long as you've got a Dirt 4.0, D4.0 or above, you've got a great chance of making that work. Angus Sweeney will have control of the field. Barney waits with the green flag as we start the mains, and who can jump themselves in? 4 will go to the D main. Oh, that's a huge jump there on the outside. Green flag in the air, and that could have been huge in the way that could have gone for Isaac Robert, and troubles immediately in the middle of the field as they work on through. That's Terry Humphreys.
Terry Humphreys had a big issue right there, and already Angus Sweeney under pressure from Michael Gimerson, who already takes over the race lead, as well as the 52 of Doug Evanson, who wants more trouble for Sweeney as he hits that berm on the bottom. He'll make contact with the outside wall with some help from Leon Hood, who tries to go, and around he goes.
Yeah, that's a big one, and no caution called for it, so they've ultimately survived. Leon Hood is the one who ends up dropping miles back down the order for it, and that ultimately is not where Angus Sweeney wants to be. He's had so much trouble to try and go through. There goes the 6 down to the inside of Brandon Geiswhite, who now is looking to try and get up into 3rd position. Shaw now on the outside looking in, and Gavin Shaw now needs to be a little bit more sure of himself, because almost already halfway's there. But it is a case of Angus Sweeney. Hold on to it right now. Outside line looks perfect there for Gavin. Now up into the transfer.
Beautiful drive right there by Gavin Shaw to just wait, bide his time, saw what was happening, and makes the pass. But for Sweeney, that's going to continue. He is struggling as more contact. The 52 up into the wall of Doug Evanson. And now we will see Shaw make more contact.
That's massive, and it's going to be rolling across, both wings demolished. 47 goes flying across the berm on the inside, and now up Isaac Robert is upside down. Caution flag comes out. Wow. That pretty much has been a crazy couple laps. Do you get that sense, Taylor, that desperation's kicking in?
The desperation, but also just how long that whole event of incidents before we got the caution was just amazing to see, as it just continued progressing worse and worse and worse until we saw one driver, unfortunately for the 53 of Isaac Reavers right there, who is just end over end, losing it, turning that wing sprint car to a non-wing sprint car.
I count 6 on the leading lap at the moment. Everybody else is down in the pits. And there's the tangle with the 52 that gets up on 2 wheels. And for Doug Evenson, that was a case of what can you do on the exit? Has another tap and then goes upside down. Then you got secondary contact that comes through with the 47 of Angus Sweeney. And the 53 ends up running over the rear. Look at that, right up to the top of the catch fence.
That's about a highlight we would see on just about any of the Dirt Vision broadcasts we would see happening here in one of the 410 sprint cars. Just shows the power that these cars have, and when they do become unstable and chaotic, that is the end result.
So they have to do 10 green laps within 10 minutes. That's the key to racing action. So you can have unlimited caution time out there, but if they don't get the laps done in time, they will head themselves and finish on time at 10 minutes. They've done halfway through this as in terms of laps, and they will have themselves enough time to go and really throw what they can at the wall and hope that it sticks. It's now Michael Gibbison with control. Brandon Geiswhite is second, Angus Sweeney third, and Darren Sharp is currently in 4th position, leaving Terry Humphreys and Arkady Solovev as the drivers who are trying to chase down. Doug Evenson is now back out on circuit with Leon Hood, so they'll join the back of the train and try and keep themselves in, because they don't lose the laps if they are going to be under this case of no cautions will count towards lapping process. But Michael Gibbison will get the run with Brandon Geiswhite, who arguably doesn't need to be here but is now going to have to try and work his way to the race lead, and immediately makes that push down to the low side and shows the pace.
Great drive right there for him to take the spot and continue on. Currently, it's Darren Sharp who holds that number 4 position. He's got Terry Humphreys closing in on him right behind in the 16 machine with a handful of laps to go as they head down the back straightaway. Humphreys has to try everything he can to try and see if he can get the 4th spot away.
Well, I'd say he's good Terry at the moment, because the name Scary Terry was already taken by Terry McLaurin. But right now, Terry Humphreys is trying to do anything possible. Darren Sharp is doing a great job of keeping that gap at about a car length and a half. But that's high going through turn number 4. So that's really going to open up and say, what more can you do? One final lap. Big throw for the transfer. Contact between the pair of them. Can Leon Hood find a way through the middle of them? Oh my goodness, yes! Humphreys goes around. It will be a win for for the likes of Brandon Geiswhite, Michael Gibbison second, Angus Sweeney will be third. Leon Hood through the middle gets his transfer.
Don't go for the gap. Are you considered a race car driver? Well, Leon Hood went for it, and he will move on to the D main.
Brandon Geiswhite 2.1 seconds over Michael Gibbison, with Angus Sweeney and Leon Hood moving to the D main. Darren Sharp will say that's the end of running with Arkady Solovev, Terry Humphreys and Doug Evenson, with Gavin Shaw and Isaac Robert done with 5 laps to go in terms of that heat, and non-starts for Troy Hockenberry and Christopher Shepherd as they try to go. 12 now enter the D main and try and work their way forward. Jason Wallott will have control of the front with Jacob Klein for company. Mike Simon and Jordan Tomberlin will be on row number 2. It's then Aaron Huffaker with Stephen McBride 5th and 6th. 7th over the page belonging to Wade Georgeson, and Travis Foose will be going from 8th place. You've then got the 4 on the back from the E-Main: Brandon Geiswhite, Michael Gibbison, Angus Sweeney and Leon Hood. And I would say Brandon Geiswhite has got the pace to challenge.
He certainly does. He could maybe be one of the drivers that could go all the way here tonight, and we're about to find out. But I know Jason Wallett and Jacob Klein are 2 other drivers that are strong competitors. Keep an eye on them to see how well they can maintain at the front of the field.
And because we're in the D main here, Taylor, we add a couple laps.
We touched on that, as we see here, as of course this is just one of 2 super sessions here tonight. So make sure, if you want the chance to run like these drivers are running, tune in or join at 9 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, and you certainly can see that and how frantic it will be, because it will be your last chance to find any form of immortality here with your iRacing Knoxville Nationals, as Jason Willott will have control of the field with the number 41, the 42, which is the answer to the life, universe, and everything, will be there alongside. Jason Willott, Jacob Clyde, Mike Simon, Jordan Tomlin, your front four, and a good launch as we get ourselves into running from 5th position. What a wonderful attempt at a start, but now it's all going to be everywhere for Aaron Hoffaker, who was trying to get the jump, and now there's going to be huge drama, contact, up and over goes Hoffaker, immediate caution with Michael Giberson caught up in it.
Unfortunate for Giberson. He doesn't have any significant damage by the looks of it, but for several other drivers like Hoffaker, he is done for the night.
It is as simple as that. There is nothing that's going to bail you out. No fast repairs available. And that was as simple and as quick. So had himself a little bit of trouble there through the start. And then it's just a case of merging on down. Hoffaker just tries to look low and realizes that I didn't quite look left.
It's safe to say he zigged when he should have zagged, unfortunately, in that matter. But unfortunate for Hoffaker, his night and chance of moving on. Guy Swipe, I got to say, with that contact, that's a little bit rough right there along with Giberson. But Giberson has moved up to P6 here, so he may be okay. We'll have to see how the handling is of that sprint car when we go back green flag.
We do sometimes see that a car that has had a little bit of a touch sometimes can be beneficial in certain conditions compared to others, but everyone wants a car that is squeaky clean out there. And of course, they are running through the mains here, 12 laps to work with, and they've got one in the books there from that initial go around. So Jason Willott will take these laps, will try and run them through without too many dramas out there and say, right, I've just got to build it from a single file start then to get this race sorted out. But the front five would have felt nothing went wrong on that start. They just did everything they needed to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they certainly felt like they did, and they've had a great start. A little bit mid-pack where some drivers had a little bit of confusion of when they could fire off and continue on, but that front group, really strong start for them. Now they just have to do it all over again.
Yep, another chance to run on through and say what they can. The beautiful blue, purple, I'd say it's even pink. That's very magenta-ish there. And the white of the 33 of Jordan Tomlin will be looking to try and work through. It would have been E-main for Tomlin were it not for the fact that a couple cars right at the end of his heat ran into troubles. But for Jason Willott, it's a lovely clean start off the front and hold on everywhere you look from about 5th place on back there. Travis Foose had a horrible start.
Big time issues and trouble once again for a couple of cars. Guy's wife is around, and Foose.
Yeah, and I think Guy Swipe is making himself known that he wasn't too pleased with that from Travis Foose as he went on by. Foose caught up on the high side and tried to move down to get the clearance. And again, you had a Guy Swipe who was down on the low side trying to keep himself out of position. Where does Brandon Guy Swipe go in a scenario like this?
You really can't go anywhere, unfortunately. And Guy Swipe, of course, shows that frustration of what happened in... Foose was also wondering what was the contact for. Got loose, couldn't control it, and there you go.
It is very much a case of where you go. Jason Willott then in complete control of the field. And remember, we are in super sessions. They've had to try and get themselves through. This is top split action because they've been qualifying using their points. The 2 time slots a day at 11 a.m. and at 9 p.m. Eastern from the 28th all the way to August 1st. They've been trying to book themselves into this place, and it's their 2 opportunities to do so. They've done so here at 3 p.m. GMT or 11 a.m. Eastern. And of course, if they don't get a good run here, they've got a second chance at time slot 2, which everybody has that second chance for, Taylor.
Absolutely. So imagine the chaos that's going to be when everyone is coming in board for the 9 o'clock Eastern session that will be happening here tonight. And I got to say, it's going to be a wide variety of drivers that will come out for that one for sure.
Yeah, and you will see that everyone wants in prime time to be there. This, for some, will feel like an appetizer. For those, for example, on the Australasian continent, so to speak, they will feel like this is their main event to go and really push for it. But they've only ticked a couple laps down on the board, so they are turning around here and thinking, well, how long is this going to take? And is this going to be a case of who's actually going to survive and get themselves into that top 4? They won't mind it too much here at the front 4. They're happy with the positions that they've got. Pace Truck dives in. Lap 3 will start with Jason Wallet, and that will allow Jacob Klein into position to try and find a way through. Mike Simon trying to push the issue at 3 wide. Won't quite work, but might have a chance for second.
And that was a close call for Jason Wallet right there as he tries to gather it back up. Mike Simon moving up to P3. Jacob Klein dropping back to P3 at the moment as Jordan Tomperlin is under immense pressure from Geisweit. Leon Hood, who's trying to go around, and 3 wide on turn 2. Contact between Hood and the 42 of Jacob Klein. They recover and continue on, but it's now the battle for P4.
Klein was the filling in that sandwich, and that was always going to be difficult. So Geisweit making great progress here. Is already up into 3rd, so definitely wasn't perturbed by the contact through on Jordan Tomberlin without any troubles. Wallet loses the lead. Now Mike Simon takes control here as we hit lap 6.
Beautiful pass for the race lead there by Mike Simon as Jason Wallet dropping back and under pressure as Geisweit moves up to P2, and now the race lead.
The Geisweit games will continue on with Brandon Geisweit to the front from the E-main to the D-main, and now looking to book a place for the C-main. Tomberlin currently in the transfer. Angus Sweeney is a mile back, 1.6.
Yeah, he is just have to be smooth, consistent, don't make any mistakes, and you could bring home the chance to move on into the C-main.
Yeah, it's that sort of way to go about things, looking from the rear of Geisweit, seeing there that there is Mike Simon on the inside, just trying to stay with and hold the lines. And they are starting to explore, and there'll be 2 different lines that work now. Low side and high side are going to be there because they are going to form all these ruts and grooves. Work on the top, again coming into play from Jason Wallet, who thinks that the high line is going to be the one that works for him. And I tell you what, he's doing a really good job. He gets the clearance, but he'll continue to run that top.
That inside lane right now is really good on corner entry right there. You can gain a little bit of ground, but that outside lane, as we saw from Jason Wallet, is got that big momentum. You're carrying more speed, not turning the car as much as you should on the bottom of the racetrack. He is doing what he needs to do, and that outside lane is going to be his best friend, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in the next few mains.
That will be very much the case of can the likes of Jason Wallet make that high line work. Mike Simon's done a good job there, but it's been all about Brandon Geisweit. There's traffic in front in the form of Michael Gibbison, who's been caught on the wrong side of Lady Luck. The final lap starts then as Geisweit will have that control. A look down low then from Mike Simon, doesn't quite pull off, but now we'll get a chance to have that run. It's comfy as you like for Brandon Geisweit, who picked up the win. Wallet will be second. It was 300ths at the line over Mike Simon, and Jordan Tomberlin will be that last place through. Very comfortable from those at the front. Geisweit through with Wallet, Simon and Tomberlin making up your top 4. Angus Sweeney the wrong side of it with Leon Hood, Jacob Klein and Michael Gibbison then as 7th and 8th, with Travis Foose and Aaron Huffaker as retirees then from that D main, and that will also include 2 non-starters in Stephen McBride and Wade Georgeson, who were unable to get things sorted. But now we go from a D main to a C main. 13 to go through. Daniel Sparks on the front with Jack Oldenburg for company. It's then Casey Sorech and Ryan Leitner in 3rd and 4th. Ryan Mayer will have Robert Nelson then on the outside of row number 3, with row 4 having Crick Noren and Neville Ulf. You've then got Ryder Poston, who rode the wall in his heat, as Brandon Geisweit from the E-main works his way all the way through. Jason Wallet then will be on row 6 with Mike Simon, leaving just Jordan Tomberlin to take that 13th position. Lucky for some here on this C main. And so now you just feel that the more that you get into a groove, the more that you race, the more opportunity you have. But the longer you wait, the colder you are. So it's a double-edged sword, really, as you go. 14 laps to deal with in the C main.
Yep, 14 laps is going to be a little bit more interesting of how the cars handle. You're now approaching about halfway distance of the feature race later on tonight. So you're starting to learn about how the car's going to handle the second half of your race as we get closer and closer. So be prepared to make needed adjustments, knowing how this car is going to handle for you at the end of the feature, if you get that chance to do so, will be critical.
Daniel Sparks is very eager to get off and going. He's just done a practice launch against the safety truck out there, and so he's had himself a little practice to say, this is how I can go up to speed. Jack Oldenburg, if he is wise to it, would have learned the way that wants to go for Daniel Sparks and how eager he wants to be off of the start of running here in Knoxville, Iowa. This is a tough circuit to go and get correct, especially as it evolves and brings itself into peak conditions. Now in comes the pace truck, and now here comes the opportunity. Great launch by Daniel Sparks. Not so much there from the likes of those who try and push. Neville Olf having to be caught back a little bit there. That was a disaster for Jack Oldenburg, who now moves himself way back down the order. A little bit of who's here, who's there as they work themselves through 3 and 4. Everybody racing up to the top.
Contact as they come off of turn 4. 3 cars compiled together. That was being Jack Oldenburg, Neville Olf, and I believe Geiswhite also involved, and he is going to have significant damage to his number 6 machine.
Yeah, this was tough because you had 3 separate incidents, it felt like, all conglomerate into one. Geiswhite was caught trying to escape the scene of the big one on the top with Jack Oldenburg, who really didn't have much help to go with. So Oldenburg was looking at a really aggressive here in through 3 and 4. Behind was Neville Olf as they all sort of came together. There was no drive from Oldenburg. Everyone came over everyone else. And then Geiswhite had a secondary piece of contact with Ryan Leitner, who just about avoided the first part, but stayed low and caught out Geiswhite in position.
Unfortunately, the run from E to the feature is done for Geiswhite. Unfortunate for him. I was looking forward to seeing what he could do, but it looks like his night is going to be done.
So, as it stacks now, this field, it's Daniel Sparks in control. Casey Sorach then is second, with Ryan Mayer then into third position by the looks of things then. So that just gives you another sense of bang, there's the first hit, and the second hit was down the inside. I'll tell you what, our camera's lucky to still be standing out there.
We got some of the hardest, most toughest, most durable cameras in all of racing when it comes to here on the iRacing service. And now we're going to see everyone get relined up. The 34 machine, or the 30 machine, getting held back as he will be put tail in, or at least in 4th position. That was Robert Nelson. As we look at the 36 machine of Crit getting ready to try to go back at it. But of course, one of the few European drivers we have competing tonight.
Yeah, you don't often find dirt ovals here in the European world of running, but they do have them, the likes of the Adrian Flux Arena in, I believe that's going to be over in where George Russell is from and Martin Brundle is from out there. So that will be in the Norwich area, the Norfolk area out there. The name of the place has just completely escaped me, but they will be going back to running, and Daniel Sparks then here will have lap 2 score complete, because they did cross the line before the caution came out. So Daniel Sparks with control, and it's all about the chase that goes on. Immediately for 4th, Crit Noren gets a wonderful jump on Robert Nelson, who falls back to the bottom. It's Casey Sorach who loses out. Ryan Mayer is making moves.
Trouble for Crit Noren. He got a penalty for that as well, so that's going to cost him a chance to move on. He's got to serve that here before he is disqualified. This will allow Ryder Poston to now move up into the 4th spot, and he will surge ahead of Crit for that position. As contact for your front runners as 2 cars, more contact. Crit has just caused a major incident off turn 4.
Noren and Daniel Sparks, who was in control at the start of that run. So Crit Noren with the penalty, getting caught up. Wrong place, wrong time with what happened there for Daniel Sparks. Was fighting with Casey Sorach aggressively into 3 and 4. And it was a case of they had contact in the middle of the corner and all the speed got scrubbed for Daniel Sparks.
What a tough break right there here, and several drivers taking it behind the wall. Neville also out of the race, as we'll take a look at the replay here of the incident. And that is the 38 machine of Casey Sawtek. As there's the contact with Daniel Sparks. And then just more as Crit makes contact, could not avoid the contact between him and Sparks.
There's a lot to try and navigate through. It was a tough scenario to throw into the middle of. You know that you're fighting hard for positions. You know you're there. The moment you lose that speed, though, you are a sitting duck out there on the outside there, Taylor. How on earth, do you just close your eyes and pray at that position?
Yeah, you certainly do, as we'll take another look at the incident. But it's so incredibly difficult when you have these drivers pull these slide jobs and think they are clear, but in all actuality, sometimes that's not the case, as we ride on board here with one of the machines, and it's just a tough break. More significant damage as he tries to gather it back up.
Well, that gives you an understanding. Ryan Mayer all the way up to the top. Casey Sorach there, Ryder Poston in third, and Robert Nelson back into fourth position. Jason Wallet, remember, who had to work his way through the D main, might be on the cusp of working away through the C main as well, with the way that things have gone. They're on lap 5, so they will move on to lap 6 here of 14 to sort themselves into place. But for the moment, Ryan Mayer, who qualified this one in 5th, for the C main, has worked all the way to the front. So it's clear that there are some paces that have been worked, but there are, drivers out there who are thinking about, okay, what if it has gone a little bit wrong? Like Ryan Leitner, Jack Oldenburg. They're trying to hope there's still a little bit more carnage to work a way through as the pace truck dives on in. Ryan Mayer will make everybody wait, scramble to the bottom as they go again.
The beautiful drive right there of Ryan to be able to time it just right to cause everyone else to scurry around and not know when the jump was going to be. But for Casey and Ryder Poston, they're going to battle for that second spot. Ryder on the bottom of the racetrack side by side. For Robert Nelson, he has a little bit of breathing room from Jason Wallet for the fourth spot.
Yeah, so that space is going to be critical, but Nelson is the one who will be realising that Wallet loves the top line, and the best way to stop him is to hold himself there. But watch out low, because they're 3 wide. Mike Simon is making progress from 12th. He has now got himself up into 5th, and now working that low line, has 4th only for a brief whippet, because now you look, Nelson's got just enough, but again, the duel continues on lap 8.
Side by side as they come off of turn number 4. It's still going to be Simon on the bottom, Nelson on the top. These two are going to go at it. The white 39 machine of Simon noses ahead, but the outside momentum of Robert Nelson still holds on, but Simon gets the 4th spot away.
Yep, and into that critical transfer, and will Casey Sorach be falling backwards into the clutches? Mayer clear by 1.2 over Ryder Poston, but now Casey Sorach is the one struggling. It gets no drive in the middle of no man's land there as Mike Simon goes to 3rd, and Sorach desperately has to come up and blocks Robert Nelson.
Beautiful job. You've got to start throwing those blocks there to keep the rest of the field behind, as Solek is trying everything he can. But a big run on the outside by Robert Nelson to take the 4th spot away.
That's a wonderful bit of work by Robert Nelson. This is what you need to start finding here. Work up on that cushion. It is the briefest of cushions now up on that top lane, to the point where he does take a tap of the barriers on the outside. Down to 3 laps to go, and they're tripping over each other now because they got traffic of Daniel Sparks to try and get around, and that brings Wallet up then a position past Sorach, and that now brings that to P5, but you need 4.
Yeah, and there's more lap traffic up ahead as Wallet tries everything to get around the lap traffic of the 54 machine of Oldenburg. As now here comes now. Oh, trouble for one driver as he hits over the curbing too much, gathers it back up, but he's able to continue on. That was Sawich who was trying to hold on for dear life as Wallet slide jumps down on the bottom of the racetrack. Could not make it work as Nelson holds on the top.
No troubles for Ryan Mayer on the top. He's got what he wants, a place in the B main. Poston second, Simon third, and it is going to be a case of Nelson holding off Wallet. A brave effort indeed, but Robert Nelson will book a place. Mike Simon will go from D main to B main. Then as far as it goes, Ryan Mayer with the win ahead of Ryder Poston, and Mike Simon from the D main to the B main. Robert Nelson will take fourth ahead of Jason Wallet. Casey Sorach will be in sixth position with Ryan Leitner seventh and Jack Oldenburg in eighth. Daniel Sparks and Crick Noren will be ninth and 10th, and the troubles then for those further behind. The rise and riser Brandon Geiswhite has stopped with Jordan Tomberlin and Neville Olf just not getting any luck today in terms of running at Knoxville. Sometimes in racing like this, you have to create your own luck, but the B main is the last chance saloon for everybody. Only 4 can book themselves a place on in. Ryland Dixon will be the driver who will have control of the field, with Brandon Dittmer who will be alongside on that run. Kyle Rochelle and Dawson Manwaring will be in third and fourth, with Robert Crawley in fifth and Kieran O'Brien then making up the sixth position. 3 Australians in the top 6. Wesley Parker and Dalton Wicker will be seventh and eighth, with Stephen Hassett and Ryan Mayer ninth and 10th. Mayer, of course, winning the C main. Ryder Poston and Mike Simon will be on row 6, and Robert Nelson in row number 7. Last chance saloon, 16 laps. Taylor, this is where you're going to have to maybe be a little slower about the way you go and make those moves. You've got time now.
You have a little bit of time to be able to make it work, as the track temperature still staying about the same. Air temperature about 73 degrees right now with partly cloudy skies. But right here at this moment, it's now going to be, you have that time, you have that pace. You can maybe think before you act on certain passes that you have to negotiate in order to be in that top 4 tonight.
So when you're at the front, it's an easy case of how you work. Now talk about being in the middle of the pack or the rear of the pack, Taylor. What does it mean when you start in the middle compared to what it means when you start at the back? Is there a different mentality and mindset that comes to you?
If you're pretty much 3rd, 4th to about 8th, you're now thinking about trying to maintain. Try to work your way up just a little bit. But for those who are 10th on back, it is go for it. Try to get up through the field. Find that groove that you used every time you were out on the track and make it work.
A super field awaits, and the back 2 rows are still to be decided, and they will do so here in the B main. Pace truck in. Ryland Dixon with a decent launch gets underway, and great work by Kyle Rochelle. Immediately moves down low and takes 2nd position away. A wonderful start that has gone on through, and then 4th position covered off right now by Wesley Parker as they work to 3 and 4.
Parker holds on to the 4th spot as he runs high, wide, and handsome up all against that Armco barrier as everybody tries to work that bottom lane. Leading the charge is that number 5 machine as they work their way down, hitting the curb, some of them almost two-wheeling on that curbing to try to make the car get as much grip. Little beating and banging on the bottom as well, as still trying to hold on for dear life. 4 wide as they come out of 4.
Oh, it's getting busy around Robert Crawley and co, and working down low. One gets thrown up into the top there. I think that's Manwaring who's had themselves troubles. There's a tap as well, further back as well into the corners, and they're going to continue to just beat and bang against each other, try and give themselves some work. Wesley Parker has gone around in the back, but we continue on with this work. Rochelle currently in 4th, O'Brien trying to work the 20, then has control of the field, and there's the 26 and the 23. Continue on. There goes Potson.
Thompson trying to do everything he can to make the run up through the field. Kieran O'Brien trying to hunt down Kyle Rochelle for the 4th spot as they come out of turn number 2. Big run by Kieran O'Brien as he's all over the back bumper of the 29 of Kyle Rochelle. He is making that outside lane work for him. Makes another power move around the outside, trying to pick up the 2-for-1 special. Could not make it work, but here comes Rochelle back on the bottom of the racetrack, trying to see if he can slide in front of O'Brien.
Kieran O'Brien has done a good job of trying to hold. Remember, O'Brien did not get the best of launches in his heat race, so he's looking to try and recover. And now looking at Ryland Dixon. What a run so far by Ryan Mayer, by the way. 10th to 2nd. It took him 5 laps to get up there. He's had a wonderful piece of work from the C main to get up to the B main and make his way, looks like, towards the feature. Dixon now dropping miles down the order then. I think that's going to be some big dramas out there, but it now means it's It's Rochelle into fourth, and Mike Simon from the D main might be making a way to the A main as he gets by Rochelle and up into fourth.
You gotta love it here, the underdog story, those who made mistakes and found their way to power their way through the momentum. Dig deep and find the opportunity presented to themselves as they come off of turn number 2. He's got about a 2-car length advantage over Ryder Poston for that 4th position. Here comes Poston, though, down on the bottom, trying to get ever so closer. Crosses up to the top side. He'll try to see if he can slide. Little bit of contact to the back bumper.
Look at Nelson. Look at Ryan Nelson go. Robert Nelson, has got 2 and is looking for 3 out there on that top line. It is working up there for Robert Nelson, but now gets into that side-by-side scenario with Mike Simon. This is a true duel of bottom versus top, but Robert Nelson is on rails, gets by and now looks at Kieran O'Brien.
He kicked in the afterburners big time as they come off of turn number 4. He will make it work and complete the pass on Mike Simon. And now sets his sights on Kieran O'Brien. He's going to go up a lane further and make it work. He'll go for the position.
Oh, it's mental. Absolutely mental the way that goes. Ryan Mayer now in the lead. Brandon Dittmer is in second. Nelson third. O'Brien in fourth. And Simon making the move. And they're now going to have to jump at 6th and 7th because Mike Simon gets a half turn as they go through. O'Brien and Rochelle make their way by. Ryder Potson there and Stephen Hassett gets held up in it.
2, or make it 3 laps to go as we see Rochelle just trying to calm down the warring beast of that sprint car. He'll go back and pull underneath the driver of Kieran O'Brien for the 4th spot. Makes the pass work. O'Brien struggles. He now has more contact happen to him as Poston gets around him for the position in the 5th spot. O'Brien back to 6.
Yeah, that's tough. Absolutely as tough can be. Kieran O'Brien just lost all the speed, lost all the rhythm, and said there is nothing left that I can do. At the moment, it's a case that Poston is 4 tenths back off of Rochelle, but the last lap has started in your B main for Ryan Mayer, who started 10th in this C main, has worked his way hard and through, and he has said, I have got pace to burn for days. Ryan Mayer is going to come to the line and take the B main as he did the C. Dittmer is second. It will be Robert Nelson, an ancient third, and Ryder Poston tried everything for 4th and will run out of steam.
Incredible fight here, but I have to give the run to Robert Nelson. I know Ryan had a great car to begin with, but watching Robert work that outside lane, incredible.
Wonderful stuff. Ryan Mayer then taking the B main with Brandon Dittmer in second. Robert Nelson through, and the last place in belongs to Kyle Rochelle in that 4th place. Mike Simon just the wrong side of it, going from the D main almost to the A main with Ryder Poston and Stephen Hassett. It's then Kieran O'Brien in 8th, Ryland Dixon 9th, and then retirees including Wesley Parker in 10th position with Robert Crawley, Dawson Manwaring and Dalton Wicker as well, making up the 13 positions then of that B main, which leads us to a little bit of downtime before this main event comes into play. And Taylor, as far as it goes, that from a run through the E main all the way to the B main was about as hectic as you could possibly imagine. We had some brilliant stories going through, but what about Ryan Mayer and the way that he is driving right now? I think we got you muted here there, Taylor.
He's able to place that car just about anywhere and make it work for him. It's absolutely incredible. I'm going to say he's got some incredible pace to maybe go and challenge Tim Ryan if he's able to negotiate all the other drivers that are ahead of him. And then how about Brandon Nelson? I mean, he was able to just make that top line inches from the Armco barrier on the outside work and just slingshot past every single competitor he set his mind to get around.
You got to keep your eye, though, on all of those who won their heat. So Tracy Pedder, Sean Smith, Tim Ryan, Colton Brewer, Mitch Drunowski, and Matty Arnold. Those 6 put themselves down as favourites for this race. But the question will be, who is going to basically say their ego is the best? Because once you got the best racing against the best, they don't want to give an inch.
No, they certainly don't. And we got to showcase some of the talent that we will be seeing going out here tonight as the sun started shining and a racing began for some of these competitors. We kicked off the heat races.
Yeah, we had some wonderful heat racing that brought itself into position. And look at that. They tangled pretty much immediately as they tried to work those places. And look at that for a little bit of a jump up over the top. It's certainly been a case of a rough start to the way they've been going about it here. I would say it's not been smooth around the edges here in terms of the heats and, of course, the mains that we've been running through. This has been some hard-nosed racing.
It really has. These drivers have been pushing the envelope, sliding, slipping, trying to make contact and hopefully etch their name into the history books here in iRacing as they do whatever it takes to have a shot as being one of the 22 drivers to compete tonight.
And they've made themselves to the 22, but it hasn't been without a lot of work, especially going through the charges that we saw from the likes of Brandon Geiswhite from E-main to C-main, the charge we saw of course, Simon moving up then to the B-main. Jason Wallet made some great positions, and then Ryan Mayer making the dance. It's been really tough to deal with, and look at how aggressive some of those incidents have been. A lot of it from drivers on the top side, not looking down to the bottom.
That is one of the difficult things because a lot of these drivers try to utilize making adjustments to their monitors to be able to see what's going on below them. Sometimes that's not always the case, and I wish we could showcase, but I know in past races we've seen drivers utilizing the VR to help them see what's going on below them as they try to work through these corners, which is so critical because if you think about it, with these sprint cars, you're only straight and narrow for a couple of seconds before you're sideways and looking wherever you can to find who's around you.
Yeah, and this has been a really brilliant bit of running that we have seen, and you can see here your Knoxville event schedule here for the Knoxville Nationals. This is your time slot 1. You've still got a chance. We keep on saying it for time slot 2. You can just sign up and join for 9 p.m. Eastern. It doesn't matter how many points you have scored. You'll get a chance to race, but those who have scored the points will have the chance to race for immortality here on iRacing as they have gone. We've also got some amazing racing coming up on the horizon here with iRacing. If you log on to iRacing.com today, you can find out how to start your career. But one of the big keys is we got great racing with eNASCAR action and with Skip Barber action to come over the course of the week coming up, Taylor, as we move into playoff season. And we will also be keeping our eyes very firmly cased on the second half of a $500,000 seat.
As they always say, it's the road to $100,000 for the world of eNASCAR from Evan Pasoko. It will then kick off into overdrive as they get ready for the next round at the Tricky Triangle. And, of course, the Skip Barbers, which you've been having the pleasure of working with, incredible opportunity to have the chance to go and compete in some of the actual Skip Barber competitions in 2026.
Yeah, there's some amazing, great racing that is here with us on iRacing, but your A-main is about to kick itself off into high gear. And so let's work ourselves through how they stack on up for this 35-lap showcase. It is Tracy Pedder who will have control with Sean W. Smith for company alongside. Tim Ryan will go from third with Colton Brewer in fourth position. It then leaves Mitch Drunowski in fifth and Matty Arnold in sixth position. Brody Dusha will start on row 4 with Levi Gustafsson as Fred Hoffman and Dalton Shearer will be 9th and 10th. Nathaniel Viscioni goes from 11th and Jeremy Soper in 12th place. Carl Peters will have Jonathan Dolly on the outside of row 7 with Michael Sheridan and Jason Crawford 15th and 16th. Dylan Simmons, who made great progress to work his way in, has Mason Skinner. There's a dark horse, Dylan Simmons there in 17th, with Ryan Mayer going from the C main to the B main to the A main, along with Brandon Dittmer, Robert Nelson and Kyle Rochelle making up the 22 that look to sort themselves out. This is showtime though, Taylor, under the lights. 35 green flag laps have to be run to confirm a winner here, and it is all about placement and positioning. You can run well from the front, but it's how do you run well from the middle. It's never truly a done and signed deal at Knoxville.
From 56 drivers, you here watching on iRacing wanted to see the best of the best. Well, you have them here lined up, 22 cars, 35 laps. Who will claim victory? We're about to find out as the lights are out on the pace truck, and we're set to go racing for 35 incredible laps at the hallowed grounds of Knoxville.
It's now about take everything you've learned, throw it out the window, and try and commit to 35 laps worth of running. Tracy Pedder will have the control of the field, the number 7 machine. The green machine there of Sean W. Smith is alongside on the outside. Tim Ryan, possibly the best driver in this field, 8,000 iRacing on dirt oval, comes from Australia and really wants to prove what he's all about. There is the pace truck diving in, and immediately the launch is there, and crossovers are plenty of there. Tangles already. Tim Ryan and co get caught up. A big chunk up in the middle, drops back 6 or 7 places, but that is how aggressive you need to be on the start. Tracy Pedder's got daylight with Colton Brewer.
The fireworks kick off on the track, and in the sky as 4 cars get together off of turn number 4. We have our first caution as 2 cars end over end, and already chaos ensues on lap number 2.
Brandon Dittmer was involved. That's Dalton Shearer, who's upside down in the middle of the circuit there. So not a great start for Dalton in the way that this would have gone. It is tough with all of the fireworks that have gone off to start off proceedings, but it shows that a cavalcade of issues have brought themselves into play, and an immediate start of racing action here has proven to be as tough can be. Let's see it on the replay.
So watching here as we see the driver of Ryan Marr try to work his way through, then the contact with the 31 machine, the 18 and the 9 then get together. That was Dalton Shearer, and then the 9 machine of Jason Crawford, as those two ended up. And then, of course, for the 18 of Dalton Shearer, tough break for him. It looks like he is done for the night.
It's a tough start, and especially when you've only got 2 laps down on the board. The big one then off of that start is Tim Ryan dropping back 3 places. I'm amazed it was only 3 that he was able to lose. Same for Sean Smith. The fact they only lost 3 as they went through is, I would say, a sign of a modern miracle out there in terms of what they were trying to navigate through.
Very surprised of how aggressive on the start right there that Tim Ryan was, along with the other drivers that made contact with him, because he was practically sideways through, nearly spun it around in front of the whole field, and surprisingly, he's actually going to be coming down pit road as we speak. And don't know if he is done or if he's going to see about making an adjustment. Can't really put fuel or change tires in these cars, but into the hot pits he goes. And he is still going to be there. Of course, no caution, so he's not going to go a lap down as quickly as we look at this replay.
Yeah, it all checked up initially, and you get the sense that the Tim Ryan incident led to Dalton Shearer, just left in the middle of the circuit with nowhere really to go, tried to fight up to the top, and then the contact there just completely ends scenario out there. So it does change the way that the face of this race goes. Single file restarts. Pedder from Smith, from Colton Brewer, from Mitch Drunowski is your way forward. We're back to running here at Knoxville. Matty Arnold looking down to the bottom, trying to find some looks, and watch on top for Brody Dusha, trying to make some progress there in the red 5.
Dusha gets a good run there in that red number 5, running up against the top side here, and they work their way through. Beautiful drive there, and they'll go side by side a little further back between the 9 and that machine as they try to work on Brody Dusha, trying to hold on for position, but Levi Gustafsson also making headway.
Yep, and great progress needs to be made quickly. Your biggest mover at the moment is Dylan Simmons, up 5 spots and looking to gain even more out there at the moment in this one. So there are places where you can find it, and there is the 2. And look on the top for this, because Colton Brewer's trying to work the top line. It's going to be covered up top, but now it's going to try and move to the middle. Sean Smith down low is going to take control now of this race, and that's now going to bring Tracy Pedder back down into 3rd. Brewer in 2nd. Sean Smith leads for 1st and for 9th on screen.
3 wide for 9th position. Now back to single file as they head down the back straightaway here. Multiple cars jockeying. Jonathan Dolly, Michael Sheridan, Jeremy Soper, Mason Skinner and company, all just jockeying, trying to hold on for dear life around this famous circuit.
Yeah, it's Mason Skinner who runs out a little bit in the worst place of it, as you've got the likes of Fred Hoffman there as well. This is all starting to stack up behind Brody Dusha in 4th position, because the top 3 have been given license to run away right now, and that gap has increased to about 7/10 of a second here between Smith and Brewer right now. 0.57 it was there as we last looked. Matty Arnold now in 5th position is the one under threat, because Mitch Drunowski is going to be the one there trying to work that through, with Fred Hoffman as well trying to work that high line. We look then from Brody Dusha's perspective, look at it, it's a swarm behind, caution's out.
Trying to see what happened here. I see Visconti having some issues coming to a slow, and Jason Crawford already out of the car. Don't know what happened there between those two. That could be the possibility, but we'll wait to take a look at the replay.
Yeah, so that is a tough moment there. The yellow coming out right in front, and we'll try and get an understanding of where that's gone in through. We believe then there that would be a very tough case of hold on through, and then it might be a tag against the wall, a full-on slide 90 degrees, and I would say that was in front of other cars there. So if that was the number 1 car of Tim Ryan and co there getting involved, that was going to be tough. I'm not quite sure who got caught up there, but that might have even been Levi Gustafsson who might have been caught up. So some tough angles out there to try and deal with on track, but it's enough to say that at 9 of 35 it throws the caution. And so now you're trying to segment the race. It's a difference between, am I thinking of this as 35 or am I thinking of it now as 24? It's a different race entirely.
It really is, because of also how this track has gone through so many changes. Normally, if you think about it, when it comes to these feature races, they would actually go out there and water the track a little bit, add a little bit more to help work the track back in, to add in some better racing. That's not the case here with iRacing in these special events. It is how the race progresses from the time we go in these heat races all the way to the end. So it is definitely a totally different track than what we started off with. You can see how the grooves are completely changing and how difficult it is. Most of these drivers have been running up towards the wall for the most part, some middle groove, but it's incredibly difficult to try and figure that out and how to place your car now through this stage.
Sean Smith with control now of the field. Eyes will be on those who have made progress into the top 10, likes of Michael Sheridan, for example, up 6 spots into 9th, keep focus, as well as Dylan Simmons, who's up 6 places into 11th. Now, Sean Smith gets a good launch then and looks to go forward, and you can see getting very much animated off of this start as he tries to get as much work as possible down on that low side, the top side, working again then for Colton Brewer, who gives chase attack for Tracy Petter. Caution's out though in the mid-pack.
And we were able to start that lap, but a tough break as Jeremy Soper around with damage to the nose, and I believe Ryan Mayer also might have got collected up in that incident.
Mayer was the innocent bystander up on the top side. It was a case of Mason Skinner down low making the contact. Young Mason Skinner out there making that initial issue there, and it brought a couple more cars around, like Nathaniel Viscioni and Robert Nelson, who had to try and get to avoidance, and Nelson's not happy. He says, please hold your brakes when you get yourself involved in an incident like that. So we'll take another look then off of the start. You can see the 12s fighting hard to get down low, but that's too low, you'd have to say, Taylor.
Yeah, that is way too low. That car, hard contact right there from both Nelson and the 31 machine right there of Viscioni. Tough break for both of them. Was really looking forward to seeing what Nelson could do on that high side as Ryan Mayer coming down pit road. His night is going to be done as well by the looks of it, as everyone else is still going to keep on rolling, but we're starting to lose drivers as the leader is out, Sean Smith.
Yeah. It looks internet-based, and as such, from the race lead, it's the equivalent of an engine going. Look, you can see here, he's scrolling about, trying to see what on earth has just happened. And from the race lead, this is every driver's worst nightmare, and you're seeing it live.
Absolutely. The stress, the dedication to try to get yourself ready to go back at it and try to see what you can do. This should give the race lead back to Colton Brewer in the number 3 machine.
Yep, so Colton Brewer now puts himself in control. Tracy Pedder, Brody Dusha in third position, Matty Arnold, and then Mitch Drunowski in 5th place. Fred Hoffman is 6th, Levi Gustafsson 7th, and it promotes Michael Sheridan up to 8th place. 10 of 35 done. We got another 25 to put on through the books, and they've got a maximum of 45 minutes to get these 35 laps done in. Right up to the top then goes Colton Brewer, who will take some time now at the front of this field. A good launch off the restart, and we're back underway again. Look at the move by Dusha down low.
3 wide for the Raceway as they try to make it work off turn number 2, but Dusha could not make it work. He'll drop back to P3. Matty Arnold sitting right there in the catbird seat, watching on as they cycle their way through the corner. It is a hornet's nest for Fourth on back.
It very much is. Matty Arnold down low, looking to hold off Drunowski for that place, and Drunowski trying to work that burr up on the top. Fred Hoffman gets a great launch now and is going to get the slide job through to try and navigate that. Just overcooked it a hair, and that brings back low Mitch Drunowski, who does just enough to keep himself stable.
He's doing everything that he can as you ride on board with Matty Arnold, trying to hold off the hornet's nest of drivers. Mitch Drunowski trying to go around the outside to see if he can make some passing work in his favor. Fred Hoffman follows suit as they come through the corner off of turn number 4 and try to make the charge as they try to hold on to position. Big run for the 25 of Fred Hoffman on the outside.
Yeah, you've got Dolly and Sheridan also in the mix as well. And tag at the wall over on the rutting on the outside of 4. That is always going to be tough for Drunowski, and it will really shake up the field now. Dittmer up into the top 10 now, making progress there. The 8 is our focus of Michael Sheridan, who's now trying to think about, can I find an angle in against Fred Hoffman, Matty Arnold and co, as your top 3 again have broken clear.
So far, so good. Your top 3 doing everything they can as we watch on Mitch Drunowski and company. There you see the 8 of Michael Sheridan trying to snake his way through. Goes in the middle around Jonathan Dolly. Slide job up in front of Drunowski and company as they head down the front straightaway. 3 wide once again as they head into 1.
And having to force some moves there. Sheridan stuck on that outside and working hard to try and get through. Dolly is there with Hoffman, but critically, Michael Sheridan has found a way to the outside, and this will be now for 4, having started 15 in this feature race, your A main. Matty Arnold working hard, but look at the time they've lost. 2.7 now to the front. Tracy Pedder is giving a little bit of chase here to Colton Brewer.
Colton Brewer trying to hold on here as we watch the battle for 4th on the top. That auto for 11 on the bottom screen as Levi Gustafsson tries to hold on. There you see the 20 machine of Brandon Dittmer having trouble. But how about Dolly having to check up a little bit from not running over the back bumper of Matty Arnold as they come through. Almost going to go 3 wide off turn number 4.
In fact, they will go 3 wide there as Drunowski's caught in the middle, trying to work her way up to the top and will manage it here, but Fred Hoffman tries to go around and will not find it. 3, almost 4 in towards 1. Oh, this is some magical stuff right now. Arnold's going to get shifted off the line here, and they're working an absolute majestic battle here as they go through. Wonderful switchback slide job again comes through as you've got the likes of Skinner now getting involved in this. Where on earth has Mason Skinner come from in this battle?
Mason Skinner was able to pull off some incredible drives as they come up 4 abreast just about off of turn number 4. Back into turn 1 and 2. That number machine of Mitch Drunowski is doing everything to hold on as Mason Skinner completes the pass. Contact behind on the back straightaway. Multiple cars going around. We're going to keep it clean and green, and now the caution comes out.
Oh, and Brody Dusha is very upset because he nearly caught Tracy Pedder there for 2nd position overall. And I think Brody Dusha realises how critical it was. You've got the likes of Fred Hoffman, who was caught up in the incident then and going around, and it was a case of Matty Arnold on the outside, no room between them, and ultimately the car on the outside trying to work her way around. It's a case of Matty Arnold's really got nowhere more to go. Hoffman then working on that outside line, thinks I've got clearance, I've got speed. It's late to try and get around like that.
Yeah, he tried to go for that gap right there, but you got to be so careful because we will see that car starting to work up, and if you're not paying attention, that is exactly what will happen.
So, 13 laps to go, and Colton Brewer had a really nice start to racing action there. Tracy Pedder is second, and Brody Dusha's in third. Some brilliant charges through this field, the likes of Michael Sheridan and Mason Skinner, who are fourth and fifth. Mitch Drewnowski is in sixth, with Matty Arnold seventh. Jonathan Dolly in eighth place, with Brandon Dittmer ninth, and Kyle Rochelle in 10th. Dittmer and Rochelle started 20th and 22nd respectively. It shows you can be anywhere in this field, and if you log on and start your iRacing career with us on iRacing.com today, you can make that charge from the back to the front.
Absolutely, and you can have the chance to race here at these hallowed grounds of Knoxville Raceway. These drivers here are looking forward to it. Really good racing overall throughout the field. Incredible slide jobs we have seen as we get an onboard look of just the calm before the storm ratchets up to 11 for these competitors once again.
And if you can find a way to the front, you now need to show that you belong to stay there. And that is the key. Colton Brewer has done wonderfully over the course of this run. Tracy Pedder has never been outside of the top three in any race so far here today. Brody Dusha is showing there's a lot of pace, but there's the charges of the two M's, Michael and Mason, who want to show that they've got what it takes to bring themselves into play. They've still got 13 green laps to try and get themselves sorted. They'll go to lap 24 to now get themselves back into position. Colton Brewer waiting. Tracy Pedder was trying to get up and underneath, try and catch that restart. Dusha's a little slow as we get back to green.
That's going to cause a little bit of a stack up there from third on back as they will now do battle. Dusha is able to pull away, but Sheridan and company follow in hot pursuit. Mason Skinner and Mitch Drewnowski also get a good run off, but here comes Tracy Pedder all over the back bumper of Colton Brewer for the race lead.
Looking for any way to go and make it happen, and low is the name of the game at the moment from your top two. It will be Brody Dusha trying to work the high line and find that rhythm and momentum once again. Maybe the longer run pace is there for Dusha. Skinner trading about behind there with Michael Sheridan, and it puts then Mason Skinner into fourth for the moment, but Sheridan back into position with the slide to move back in play. Suddenly it's about hold yourself in play, and Brody Dusha again to the outside, but he's being covered every single way he tries here from Tracy Pedder. Tracy is placing the car perfectly, but there comes the slide job to try and get the move.
Beautiful job right there by Brody Dusha to hold on and makes contact on the outside. Well, that's Mason Skinner. He's going to lose a couple of spots as here comes Sheridan, but hold on, Brody, because Tracy Pedder back on the attack around the outside.
That was a case of Brody Dusha overcooking it into the corner, tagged the wall and lost out, goes back low side, and this time it works. Brody Dusha now 8 laps to make it happen, moves up into second place. For the moment, it is Colton Brewer out in front, but for the moment, it's all going on here because you've got Michael Sheridan in play. We've got cars here, there, and everywhere trying to figure out what they've got. Still, it's the battle on for second. Dusha holds off Pedder.
We got a tram line of cars all the way around the racetrack just about as they come off a turn for your race leader. Tracy Pedder trying to hunt down Brody Dusha for that second spot. He tries to keep the outside lane, the big momentum on his side as he tries to kick that car off corner exit a little bit more to make sure it stays planted on the track. You ride on board with your race leader, Colton Brewer, 0.8 of a second to the good as they come around 5 laps to go from Barney the Flagman.
It doesn't get much slicker than this in terms of track conditions, and right now Colton Brewer is mastering it perfectly. You can see them ever decreasing circles in the distance as Tracy Pedder watches Michael Sheridan looking to move for third place but isn't close enough. And what about for fifth with Jonathan Dolly making progress down low behind?
Beautiful drive right there by Dolly as he tries to see if he can pick up a couple of more spots in the closing stages of the race. Out of turn number 4 as here comes Dolly on the inside, Skinner on the top.
Yep, Skinner, right in the ruts for Mason Skinner. That's tough, hold on, and there goes Drewnowski through, Dittmer through, and somehow it is held. What a roller coaster for Mason Skinner.
Popsicle sticks in the air for Colton Brewer as he comes out of turn number 4. 2 laps to go for him, and he is doing what he needs to do, hitting his mark, running up against the inside berm as everyone else tries to give chase, but it might be too little too late.
It's all about holding yourself steady at the front of the field. Colton Brewer got a little bit of help with the troubles that ran into by the likes of Sean Smith, but you only play what you've got in front of you. When he took the race lead, he was never going to relinquish it. Car number 3, Colton Brewer's only got a couple corners to go at 3 and 4, and it has been a masterclass from the front. Colton Brewer takes the Knoxville Nationals here with this of the first of 2 of your super sessions.
Incredible drive right there as the fireworks go off once again. Colton Brewer, you have etched yourself into Knoxville glory in the virtual world, and who knows, we may see him come back tonight and have a shot at it once again.
The double is very much available for anyone who goes through. The fireworks find themselves off in great fruition, and a showcase here as far as results go of trying to put yourself right place, right time. You can certainly make moves around this circuit here at Knoxville, but from 4th position, winning a main, winning a heat, and just getting it done, it couldn't be more perfect for Colton Brewer, who gets it done, and overall in race time of 19 minutes and 17 seconds in all to get it done. But this is a big firework display, the biggest of the lot, and that's why it's the Nationals.
It really is. This is the biggest event when it comes to wing sprint car racing. This is the race every single driver, both in virtual and the real world, wants to come win. This is hallowed ground that we are on here today.
And a big win for Colton Brewer, 1.7 seconds over Brody Dusha, with Michael Sheridan late picking up the final spot on the podium. Tracy Pedder will lose out in 4th place as Jonathan Dolly will be 5th ahead of Mitch Drunowski in 6th. Brandon Dittmer will be 7th with Kyle Rochelle 8th, along with Dylan Simmons there in 9th position. And Ryan Mayer, remember, going from the C main to a top 10 finish here in this one. Carl Peters and Levi Gustafsson will be 11th and 12th, with Matty Arnold and Robert Nelson 13th and 14th, the only cars left on the lead lap, with Mason Skinner a lap down, Nathaniel Viscioni 2 laps down, and then retirees Tim Ryan, Fred Hoffman, Jeremy Soper, Sean Smith. Well, hold out a candle for him, because that was the worst way to lose a race out there, with Jason Crawford and Dalton Shearer making up the full field that has got itself into play. Simply put, Taylor, that's what you call a Knoxville Nationals. It had a little bit of everything to it.
It certainly did. A little bit of chaos, a little bit of hard-fought battles. The gladiators definitely came to play here today, Jake. And I have to say, you're going to have a time this later on today when we get ready for Super Session 2 for today's action.
Absolutely. The best thing about Knoxville Nationals on iRacing is you're not just done here, you get to do it all over again. And that means that's another 6 heats that got to go into play. More E-main, D-main, C-main, B-main, and more A-main action that will come into play. And that'll be with us, of course, exclusive with iRacing, and some amazing action through. Taylor, final thoughts then as we bring things over towards a conclusion here from a wonderful Knoxville, Iowa.
Well, for the drivers here today that really didn't get that opportunity to put on the drive that they want, you can come back later tonight, race at the second Super Session, and have a better opportunity. But for those who really worked hard, they still may have to fine-tune, tweak a little bit, and get themselves ready for another Knoxville National. And, of course, for Colton Brewer, could he go for the double? Find out tonight at 9.
There's always that hint that there is something available for so many that try and say it is what you can do. You cannot argue in terms of the racing how brilliant it is, unless we forget here, Taylor, that we've got some amazing more events coming up on the horizon. It's not just Knoxville Nationals. You've got the likes of the 1,000 kilometers of Portimao, the Crandon Championship, Indy 6. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the BRSTC Formula Ford 1600 Festival. That is always something fun to see.
You also got another couple of other Super Session events happening with the Crandon Championship and the SCCA runoffs that'll be happening in November, as well as also the Chili Bowl, our second of 2 dirt oval events. That is always a fun event to run at the Chili Bowl. And then, of course, wrapping up with the Production Car Challenge in December.
Yeah, so there is still amazing racing that comes along with iRacing special events. There are more and more every year because there are amazing races every year when it comes to iRacing action. As far as your Knoxville Nationals will go for the first time, it's Colton Brewer who will find that everything is there. But there is still more to deal with because eNASCAR, lest we forget here, Taylor, is heading to Pretty Pocono. The Tricky Triangle will rear its head here on August 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern. And everyone knows that the Last Chance Saloon is in play. You've got one shot to book your place in for the finals and the playoffs.
Absolutely. Can anyone have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with Steven Wilson? Of course, there's another driver who's a fan favorite, Bobby Zelensky, former champion Casey Kerwin, also looking to try and take the top spot away from Steven Wilson.
And of course, there is more than just eNASCAR on the horizon because the race for a $500,000 seat, your top 3 are trying to book their place to get themselves in with the Skip Barber Racing School and a series that has been won by Elvis Rankin and Sebastian Weldon through this series. Hot Lap qualifiers are still available here, so you can pay your $20 by heading over to Skip Barber Racing School and getting yourself into that. Your main race will be on Thursday, August 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern, so you'll want to jump in and get yourself involved with that if you feel like you want to try and get yourself a chance of saying, you know what, I'd like to learn a little bit about how to drive in the real world. There are many prizes available in that. But it is all about being at your best, driving through the front, and after a couple of hours of hard-fought racing, it's Colton Brewer who comes up on top. Your next run of racing for the Knoxville Nationals will be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Super Session 2 is just a few hours away. Thank you so much for watching with us here on iRacing. There is more amazing, great sim racing coming up with you later on. It's Colton Brewer who takes his big win.